Our President Cyril Ramaphosa is actually addressing a Business Economic Indaba in Johannesburg. The focus, of course, job creation as well as the implementation of the country's economic growth plan. Let's listen in.
And come up with thoughts and proposals on how we can deal with challenges such as that, the debt levels of our country. Because this country belongs to all of us. It is our common problem, common asset, common concern. All of us must feel so deeply concerned. So people who have ideas, thoughts, and innovative solutions, we must feel that we can come forward and talk about it. Right now, we're dealing with a huge challenge, which is Eskom. Eskom's debt levels are just completely going in a different direction. And the wonderful thing that I'm finding is that having appointed a panel, an advisory expert panel on Eskom, who have come forward to say these are some of the suggestions and solutions, I'm finding that there are quite a number of countrymen and women here in South Africa who are coming forward and saying, this is what we think, and coming forward with even unsolicited suggestions. And this is what I believe we should seek to do, because it is our common problem. Our SOEs, many of you have a sense that our SOEs are not performing as well as they should be, and you are right. It's not only a Cyril Ramaphosa problem or Pravin Gordhan problem or government problem. It is our collective problem, which we must all find solutions for. We are in, a bit of a messy situation, and maybe that is a euphemism for something much bigger. But we need to be talking about all these things. The initiatives that we have embarked upon, for instance, and let me clear this off the table, putting our SOEs right, dealing with the corruption issues. And some of you keep saying, oh, but we're not really seeing this and this. And I say, all in good time, we put in place a mechanism that is ferreting out all the horrible things that have been happening. And it continues to do so. But after all that, there has to be action. There has to be real serious action that will be taken. And so with this, we will all need to hold hands, because let's face it, there is also this notion that there are people who will fight back, who will resist. And as they will, because sometimes when you take away opportunities that they have used for wrong deeds, those who have benefited from them are going to fight back. They are going to resist. And so must we. So must we take them on as well. So it is therefore important that we hold hands, we work together, and make sure that we put our country back on the right path. Because we should not be a country that is defined by a sense of or acts of corruption that have gone completely out of kilter with our value system or what we've always believed in. I believe that a report has just come out, Transparency International says South Africa is one of the most corrupt countries in the world. Well, I'd like to say that this should now be the last time that South Africa is described like that. This should be the last time. We are going through a very cathartic moment where all wrong things are just spewing out. And sometimes when pipes burst and there's just all the horrible things, there comes a moment where those pipes must be repaired, and there must be redemption and accountability. And we are going to make sure that that happens. without any fail. So that we are going to do. So I think if that is our starting point, because that's where we need a common understanding. Where are we going? We are going to a destination where South Africa will have rid itself of corrupt activities, underhand dealings, and all the wrong things that were happening. Where we now begin to rebuild the image of our country, the integrity of our institutions, where we now put the right people in jobs or positions where they will serve the nation. That is where we should all be aiming to go. And now we're involved in a process of reforming our institutions, putting right people there, and moving the country forward. And as we move our country forward, we now address the SOEs because they have an overbearing impact on the fortunes of our economy. So the efficacy of our state-owned enterprises must be so recalibrated as to be able to do the job that they were set out for. We must make sure that even the people who are appointed to do the work that they are meant to do should do that. But that also touches on the policy issues, the policy uncertainty. And unfortunately, we've been through the past few years, 9 years or so, where policy was almost, done on the hoof. On the hoof as, somebody, felt, yes, this would advance this and that interest, policy was crafted. And that led to not only policy uncertainty, but policy inconsistency. So we are saying that must be behind us. Policy must be clear, policy must be constant, and where it needs to change, there must be a rationale why it is changing. There must also be openness and transparency. We need to discuss issues on a collaborative and collective basis so that we arrive at policy positions that are going to take the country forward, not take the interests of certain individuals, certain groups forward, only to the exclusion of the majority of South Africans. So policy certainty then becomes a major issue. Now this is where we have a bit of an Achilles heel. But it is an area which we have been addressing. In the past 9 months or so, that's 10 months or so, we've been addressing precisely this. And let me tell you how it has come about. It has come about out of a collaborative process where we have met with the business community, yes, indeed, as labor and communities as well, and we have said, this is impeding the progress of the country, it's impeding progress, let us address it. And I want to thank you all in the business community that you've been bold, you've been forthright, you have not minced your words in a number of areas. I mean, be it in the mining charter, for instance, be it in the tourism sector, for instance, visa regime, be it in a whole number of things, the regulatory framework in our country. You've been forthright, even in health, where you've said we don't have the skills, your regulatory regime is impacting negatively on what needs to be done. So you've been very direct. And that directness has helped to get us to focus, has helped to focus on what needs to be corrected. And we, my colleagues and I, have sat down and said, if we want to move this country forward, one, we've got to be in close collaboration with business, labor, and communities and build compacts. And some of the compacts may be almost focus on particular issues. But we need to build those compacts. You look at what we did with the Job Summit. Job Summit led all of us, and groupings that would never possibly have been able to agree on real issues that need to be done. We're able to sit down and underpinned everything we were doing with the need to address the interests of the unemployed, the interests of the country. So collaboration has been a key ingredient in everything that we have done. And so that has given us the platform to be able to hear what the concerns are. And those concerns are being addressed. And some may take time. For instance, the issue of the spectrum, broadband spectrum. We were just faffing around, if I may use that colloquial or loose term. We're just faffing around and not paying attention to what needs to be done. And in the end, this is like almost the flywheel that can get the economy to function properly. You were able to get us to sit down and address this issue. And now it is being addressed to finality. Yes, you have broadly raised the issue of state expenditure. That expenditure has been just going completely out of the levels that we would have all wanted it to go, addressing that. The wage bill, the public sector wage bill, we have been saying also to Labour that we need to sit down and look at what constitutes the wage bill, what the country can afford, and how can we work together to try and find an equation that can enable us to move forward to deliver the services that our people need. The efficiency of the state. Now, some of the things that have happened have actually dealt a devastating blow to the efficiency of the state. And the state has been denuded of, really capable people. Some people have been really good, and when they saw what was happening, they gave it all up and left. Some have been browbeaten into submission. Some who wanted to speak out have been hounded out. And those who have given lackluster performance have been put in key positions. So the state in the process has been weakened severely. And colleagues, this is where we are going to require the cooperation between business and the state to help the state to get to better capacity, better efficiency. And where we've been able to work together, we found that this works. Now, my approach since I got into this position has been, we need to put all hands of South Africans on deck. We need to find a way of roping in as many South Africans as, of course, we possibly can to work with us. And I've sought to do that, and setting up this entity and that entity to bring the clever minds that we've got, the talented minds that we've got, the able people that we've got, bring them in and help us find solutions. And that for me has been important because it adds to the collaboration, it adds to the compact building approach that we would like to have. You've raised the issue of education. And education, we cannot even begin to doubt what Madiba, our founding father, said. Because education is the real key. Now, it is through education that if we were able to work together, even in a much, much firmer way, we will be able, even dealing with issues of qualifications and access to skills, development and all that, if we were able to work together, we would be able to move ahead. And it also revolves around issues such as, for instance, if you are a corporate and there's a TVET college near where you operate, there should be nothing that stops you from saying, These are the skills that we need. And this is the type of curriculum that should be delivered at TVET this and TVET that and so forth. And this is the working together that we can encourage between our educational institutions and the private sector. What I'm trying to paint is a picture that says we are open for business. We are open for collaboration. We are open for partnership. We are open for working together. And we are open to put the building blocks in place to grow the economy of our country. And that, for me, is the important part. Why would we want to do all these things, Sipho? Why would we want to address the debt issues, the efficacy of our state-owned enterprises, and all that? There should just be one goal, and the one singular goal is to grow our economy. Now, I've just come, as I end now on this round, I guess, I've just come out of this meeting of a number of business people and ministers, some of whom were with you from the morning, where they are beginning to imagine a South Africa that will have a 5% and a 7% growth. They are beginning to imagine that. They are coming up with ideas. And they've identified 18 sort of sectors and subsectors where they are getting to grips with the nuts and bolts of saying, in this sector, we can create so many jobs. In this sector, we can invest so much money. And that, for me, is the goal, I mean, maybe the holy grail that we should all aspire to touch. But go beyond touching, to engage with, because that's where we want to be. And we can only be there when we work together. Now, they also said, Mr. President, we are imagining and reimagining a 5%, 7% growth. We would be prepared to do the bit that can be done by the private sector. We want government to deal with the inhibitors, to deal with what holds this great country back from generating that 5% growth. Now, I found that to be very uplifting, enormously uplifting, because I look at maybe a stupid regulation that we have that is stopping business from operating or businesses from operating. I look at another whatever that is holding us back, and I look at 5%, 6%, 7% growth. And I say to myself, this is a no-brainer. We must remove the inhibitors for growth. We must remove the obstacles and the constraints to growth. And South Africa must now go and grasp that high growth. And we can do so by working together, by addressing the issues that Sipho and Tanya have been raising. And where, for instance, and I shut up now, where, for instance, we've been tentative, a bit slow, showing lackluster commitment, you must kick us in the butt. You must kick us in the butt and say, you are not moving here. You must be willing to come forward and speak strongly. Now, over December, I had 3 people who were amongst you here, Martin Kingston, Sipho, Pichana, and Tanya Cohen, who said, Mr. President, we need to see you right now. And they came to my home and inflicted quite a number of bruises on me by talking straight and saying, this is not going well. But of course, they were painting this against the broad canvas of saying, we've come a long way and we've done all the right things. But here are cracks. Here are constraints. Here is slow movement and so forth. And as president, I welcome that. I welcome that because You must be willing to, what do they say in English? They said, talk truth to power. You must be willing to do so if we are going to move this country forward. So I invite you and I say, yes, inflict those blows. We need to hear them. Your comments, your criticism, to move the country forward. And go beyond just this list that you have given me. Be as hard-hitting as you can be. But in the end, you must be willing that we should work together to address all these problems and challenges. Now, finally, I've shut up. Thank you very much.